fantasy is not just fiction. Fantasy can be so much more than that. Fantasy can change the way you see things and change the way you think. I came into this game thinking it was just another Persona game without romance with a twist of fantasy. But boy was I wrong. I've been playing this masterpiece of a game for the past few months and I've never been more stunned by a game in my entire life. In this video, I'm here to tell you that Metaphor is not just fantasy Persona, but something completely different. Even though it's pretty much similar to Persona, and they have the same developers. Yeah. The thing that made me love Metaphor way more was that it felt like a big road trip. Every single time that you needed to go to an area or a dungeon, it feels like a big road trip. And what gives it so much personality is that on the way to an area, you would sometimes stop to take a look at different scenery, where characters would explain the history of an area, which makes the world in Metaphor feel so alive. Not only that, but there are also times where you would camp at night. And camping at night allows you to increase your social stats with your teammates. And this is why Metaphor does such a good job at immersion, making it feel like you're on a journey with them. Metaphor makes the characters move around a lot. For example, Persona. In Persona, it's around a fixed area, but sometimes having special occasions like going to Hawaii. But in Metaphor, you move around constantly. And what I mean by that is that you don't just stick around in the same few areas. Depending on where you are in the story, your characters would constantly move to different places, sometimes an island, sometimes city, and a whole lot more. This just makes it so much more exciting when you're entering a new arc. It just gives you something to look forward to. Next is gameplay. I understand when people look at the gameplay, they're just gonna think, oh, it's just another Persona game, but in a fantasy setting. But here's where it's different. Yes, just like Persona, Metaphor has a time limit on what you do. But if you look closely, the time that's given to you in Metaphor is much shorter than the time that's given to you in Persona. And there's a reason for that. In Metaphor, you can essentially do whatever you want. To a certain extent, of course. The game is designed in a way where you would complete all of your social links before the game even ends. Long gone are the days where you would look at a guide to complete all of your social links in one playthrough. I'm looking at you, Persona Tree. You are a pain in the ass. Essentially, Metaphor just gives you more freedom to do whatever you want, and you don't have to worry that much about time management. Which brings us to combat. I think combat in Metaphor is essentially SMC, which is good. But the main thing I want to talk about is the archetypes. Archetypes are basically personas. It is so refreshing to not see the same demons being used over and over again. And the best thing is, you don't have to look up fusion guides anymore. The game essentially gives you a skill tree to unlock all of the archetypes in the game. One of the last things I want to talk about is the main antagonist. Persona antagonists aren't really known for being well written, except maybe Maruki. But the main antagonist in this game, who is Luis, is written in a way that throughout the game's story, you're constantly on his tail, which means it gives time for you to understand him more as a character, unlike in certain Persona games where you would have multiple antagonists. And every single time this motherfucker speaks, I lock the fuck in. I get anxiety every single time this dude speaks. There's no other Atlus character that gave me so much anxiety when interacting with a character. So yeah, I think Luis is one of the best written antagonists in Atlus history. And that's about it. I hope Atlus makes a part 2 of this game, as there's so much potential for the continuation of the story, and I really hope that this game wins Game of the Year. I know that it's a little impossible for them to win, but I really hope they do. I think Atlus really deserves a chance of winning Game of the Year this year, because they have done a fantastic job. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye!